Hey, everybody. Welcome to Ginger Runner Live, episode number 327.
Thought you were going to say 30-something. I was like, ooh, you're a little off.
My brain is immediately going to our daily brew, our daily live stream numbers. But for Ginger Runner Live, we're at 327, which is a pretty big number.
I feel like we're almost there with Daily Brew.
I think the numbers are going to coincide at some point.
We've been doing Daily Brew for just over 6 months now.
154 days straight of daily live streams, and they're gonna cross paths. That is gonna be one of those. That'll be a fun day. We'll figure out what to do. It'll be something special. Welcome everyone to Ginger Runner Live. Tonight, our guest David Roche is back on the show for our ongoing segment that we refer to as Ask Coach Roche. It's one of our favorite things to do here. David Roche is a fantastic running coach, life coach. He works with athletes of all abilities, all levels. If you have training or running related questions or life related questions, our guest tonight will be able to field some of those and knock them out of the park. He's the kind of guest that we've had on now a number of times because he's so great. And I tweeted about this earlier today. It's like anytime we leave a David Roche episode, we feel inspired, excited, and just ready to get out there and challenge ourselves and
usually
stuff.
Hungry for pizza or burgers.
Yeah, there's also that. So welcome everyone to the show. Sit back, relax. Ginger Runner Live begins now. Ginger Runner. Yay! Hi, everybody.
Had to make eye contact.
We always do. It's like when you cheer someone. Okay, connected. Welcome to Ginger Runner Live, everybody. Episode number 327. Thank you for taking some time out of your busy Mondays to spend a little bit of it with us. Tonight, we have a very fun show planned because our guest is a regular here on the show and is incredibly knowledgeable about all things running, training, life. But it's just one of those spirits that you just love to talk to and be in the company of. David Roche is going to join us on tonight's Ginger Runner Live. What did I say?
You said one of the spirits, and all I could think of was like a spooky Halloween spirit.
Costco does have Halloween decorations up.
And Christmas.
A lot of spirits. It's funny because my mind immediately goes to a bottle of vodka. So whatever spirit you believe in.
Shaping up to a really great party here.
We're already up to a great start. So David Roche will be joining us on the show in our ongoing segment called Ask Coach Roche. So if you do have questions about anything training related, running related, life related, anything like that, we're going to try to field those questions with our guest tonight, as we do anytime we have him on. Just jump into the live chat room. Kim is there.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm there.
We're
really nailing the show today.
It's because we're starting about an hour early. I think this is normally we start at 6 p.m., but since the pandemic, we started moving it earlier to 4 p.m. Today, we're even a little bit earlier at 3 p.m., which for us is like, I think we just woke up.
And I can tell by the sun rays on your face. Usually they aren't in that position during the show.
No, the fact you can actually see sunshine is like a little weird. And I'm not wearing a hat.
Because I cut your hair. Anyways, if you have questions for our wonderful guest, David, that we'll be bringing on in just a second, just pop them into the chat room. We'll be asking them throughout the hour.
I realize this is probably the earliest I've drank on a Monday.
Congratulations.
I appreciate the congratulations. Before we introduce our guest, of course, we like to mention members of the community who help make this show possible, who really bring it month after month after month. And that is our Patreon crew. We call them our GR crew because they are essentially the crew that helps make everything happen, from live streams to reviews to films to everything that we do behind the scenes here. So big shout out to our GR crew. They know who they are. You can also become a member of the GR crew by just going over to patreon.com/thegingerrunner for as little as $1 a month. You help support everything we do. For the $3 level and above, we are doing daily live streams, and we've been doing them for 154 days. So you have a lot of content to catch up on, a lot of conversations, some funny, some sad and emotional, some all about running, some with spiders on the microphone. There's a whole bunch of fun things to go back and listen to. So join us over at patreon.com/thegingerrunner.
And also really quick, before we get into the show, we also have a Discord server now.
Pretty excited about this. There is a thing called Discord. It's been around for a number of years. It's a fantastic service for people who like to communicate on a regular basis, basically like chat service with a bunch of different chat rooms and things like that. So we have our very own Discord server that is exclusive to Patreon at this time, and it is awesome. It is awesome. So
all the instructions and everything are on, our
Patreon.
Patreon site.
If you're tired of Facebook and you want to communicate with your friends and like-minded individuals in a fast and efficient way, we got you covered.
It's pretty fun over there.
It's super fun. Okay. Oh, and one individual in particular at the top tier, Brian Sands. We mention him every week. He's been just a long-time supporter, just really helping us in so many different ways. Brian Sands is incredibly inspiring and is on his own running journey that he shared a lot with us, currently training for a big undertaking, the Cocodona 250-mile endurance run that takes place in 2021. We'll have some updates from Brian in the coming weeks and months because he's got some pretty cool stuff planned. And just last week, knocked out a 44-mile weekend, which is his first big weekend like that ever.
Coach Megan Roche dropped that into Brian's plan for him.
Yep. And speaking of Coach Roche, we have one of the two Coach Roaches on our show tonight. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome him back to Ginger Runner Live, David Roche.
Yay!
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. Took all my willpower not to jump in when we were talking about spirits and the sun rays shining off people's face. This is my
look at that
right here.
Yeah.
My forehead has 6 Venetian blades of light. So it's huge.
Maybe I'll get a sunburn there during the show. It'll look really cool.
It looks like I got in a fight with Wolverine. Hi, David.
Hey, it's so good to be on. I'm so excited. And also, thanks for moving it earlier. Moved earlier because of my needs. I don't know if people at home can see this, but my phone has a number of cracks in it. So for the last month or two, I've been dealing with a screen that thinks I'm touching buttons I'm not.
Oh, no.
But it's been surprisingly liberating because I'm like, well, I guess I'm not going to respond to that text message ever. And then all the important things I can get through the computer somehow.
I imagine there's a bit of, it's fun to be able to go through your text and go, oh, I can't even access that text, so I can't reply because it won't actually let me click it. Have you run into any issues of sending bad things, inappropriate things?
So fortunately, it doesn't press send on the text bar. That's not where it does the phantom text. Good. But if I try to go to the phone to call someone, it's just fair game of who it's going to call. So, a number of athletes on the team have been like, why is David calling me at 4:30 a.m. and what is going on? So I think I've officially reached my point of where it's at negligence and it's getting towards recklessness. And I need to not make that jump since, I do a fair bit of my work through the phone.
Well, it's obviously great to have you back on the show. We love having you on the show. And I feel like every episode we have you on, Kim and I, we end up talking about it for at least a couple hours after of just man, I feel so inspired. I feel like I need to revived and rejuvenated to get back to the sport we love so much and to pick new projects and fun things, especially, now and with everything that's going on and stuff like that. It's just so great to have guests like you just around, near us and able to have conversations with us. So we appreciate you coming on, my friend.
That means so much. I'm like a cup of coffee, except make you poop just a little bit less. So
a little bit less.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit. You're having beer now at 3 p.m. So who knows what's coming the rest of the day excretion-wise.
I mean, all I know is I'm going to have just 3 red stripes across my forehead.
You're setting yourself up for a great week.
I'm going to wake up tomorrow and be like, what happened? How have you been? How are things going for you? What's been keeping you busy as of late? Are you training hard for something? Are you preparing for something? Have you been helping other people? What's been going on in your life specifically?
So just coaching away. That's how we spend every day, and we absolutely love it. Everyone's going through everything. I mean, every single week. For those that I don't coach, we do this rundown of accomplishments that week. And one of the things I've really tried to emphasize this year is that this is actually a highlight reel. Social media is always a highlight reel, but this is literally one. So I'll be like, this week was awesome sauce, but it was also terrible sauce. But we're just not highlighting that stuff because that's not necessarily my story to tell. So people are doing amazing things. Today, Megan and I got to crew one of our athletes that Bailey K. Kowalczyk, I think is how you pronounce her last name, who set the Boulder Skyline Traverse FKT. in the Golden Trail series. But then, mainly just trying to be there every day for people. And then we're training really hard, and we've been biking a lot more because we don't have any running events on the immediate horizon. So we're trying to mix it up and think about our longevity a little bit. So it's been really fun through the crap storm that is 2020.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say it's been really fun following your biking journey.
Yeah.
Following Megan's stories of like, just gonna go for a super casual run, and then David shows up with a nose strip on, or casual ride.
I'm all about the nose strips now. Like, I'm just like, I need everything. I need every ounce of air I can get if I'm trying to keep on Megan's wheel on the bike.
Yeah.
Because as good of a runner she is, she's like as good of a cyclist. So yeah, I've been trying to get air through every orifice possible. If they had ear strips, I'd be all about that too.
I believe the thumbnail to this episode also has David with a nose strip. In case you were curious what David looks like running with a nose strip, our thumbnail for today's show is that.
Best part, so to make sure that it's clear how seriously I take myself, my nose gets a little bit dry if I do wear them without any. So I put like a little strip of toilet paper under the bridge of the nose on the nose strip. So usually there's like toilet paper coming out of both ends with like the nose strip. So I'm just saying, I'm super pro if any companies want to sign me to a multi-year contract or anything.
Also a beauty guru, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
David's tips just in regards to your T-zone and using an actual toilet paper T in your T-zone.
Exactly.
A TPT, if you will.
I'm going to have a thriving YouTube channel any minute on exfoliation of just this part of your nose.
Fastest way to 1 million subscribers is probably YouTube
Toilet
guru.
paper.
Toilet paper. I want to start talking a little bit about this topic of conversation that you sort of brought out with the recent Trail Runner magazine article that you posted about today, just in regards to celebrating yourself. What were sort of the origins of this? What were you hearing or seeing from your athletes that sort of triggered creating this article, and why is it relevant now? The celebration of ourselves.
Yeah, well, I think all the time people are really accustomed to a society like that expects some sort of effortless perfection, where you do these things and you bring them out in such a way that you either downplay yourself and your accomplishments, or you act like, you're not that proud of them or whatever. And we've been saying all these years, you're enough, you're awesome. And no matter how much we say that, we still see people, in their training logs or on the text messages saying like, no matter what they do, finding ways to cut themselves down. And I don't think it's necessarily just like a genesis within their heads. I think it's something that is ingrained from the time they're young. And it's especially hard for women athletes, BIPOC athletes, transgender athletes, everything like that face societal and individual discrimination too. And so what I'm just like is, no, that's not the way it is. You gotta live with swag. You gotta celebrate yourself, because if you don't, none of that stuff matters. So in a very practical level, that matters as an athlete, because living and running with swag is the only way to end up pursuing your real potential. Otherwise, you're going to hit that first barrier and just not go past it, or think you're at your potential and just be like, I guess this is what I am. When in reality, if you just kept digging with that swag, you never know what you're capable of. But then more than that, it's just fun. It's like the reason we like listening to Cardi B or rap, or like watching comedians that are self-assured, it's because that is the energy that like lifts other people up too. Like it's that energy of just like, heck yeah, I got this. We got this. So swag experience as an individual and as a group, that's where the great power comes in. You're never going to see some like NBA superstar be like, I guess I'm okay. And there's a reason for that. It's because they never would have become a superstar in the first place. And that doesn't mean you need to be like the best in the world. It just means that if you don't fully embrace that attitude, you're always going to sell yourself short. And so what the article says essentially is not that, hey, have swag tomorrow. It's to say you need to accept that is a valid goal in a society, in a world that often will tamp that down and say that will play that away. Will say that, oh, you should be more humble or whatever. It's like, screw humility. Humility, we have enough of that in the world. I want more people saying, heck yes, I did this. I'm freaking awesome the way I am. And then that will give everyone else the courage to lift each other up too. So yeah, swag, I mean, I use that term because it's like a little bit easier to talk about than saying like self-acceptance or self-confidence or anything like that. But like, I encourage everyone to just try to be a little bit more swagtastic.
It's interesting because this is, I mean, I think this is an internal dialogue with everything that we do in everyday life. Like there's my brain always wants me to go, you set a goal, you accomplish that goal, and it's like, okay, I guess I did it, rather than like,
and like, oh, I could have done it this way, or I could have done this way, or I should have done this,
or faster, or yeah, like, you know, the perfectionist in me is like, well, it's done, but it's not great. Or if I'm setting a running goal and I don't quite meet it, then it's like, well, total failure. You know, it's like your brain instantly wants to go there. Do you have any tips or tricks that sort of is how can we sell ourselves or give ourselves more celebration, embrace our swag, as you perfectly put?
Well, at the start of WAP, Cardi B doesn't say certified freak 4 days a week. She says certified freak 7 days a week. And I mean, essentially, the reason I'm talking about it in such playful terms is that this is a mental health journey, and that requires a support system. Most of all, whether that's, you know, obviously family, friends, people, you know, communities like GRL, therapy, medication, things like that. Like all those doors need to be open. But once they are, it's that, you know, we just need to be willing to let that support in and let those thoughts in. Like, so, I mean, I talked to a couple therapists to make sure this article was on track with what it needed to say. And essentially what they said is, you know, so much of it is just giving permission to know that this is an okay step to take. Because whether it's our upbringings, especially like certain types of people and where they grew up and things like that, like our brains do constantly want to undermine our progress and make it into a bigger deal than it actually is. So, you know, we start at the same place we always do, that this is impermanent. This is dust. We are all running straight headfirst into like this hurricane force celestial wind. But in that process, that impermanence is the ultimate liberating factor. So, you know, that's where you get your support systems and like, yeah, this is impermanent. This is meaningless. But in that's where you find that like that freedom to fail, to do all these things, to take risks, and know that like you're the man, the woman, the non-binary person with nothing to lose. So yeah, just taking the pressure off is the first step. And often what that means in practice is when those thoughts come in, you just gotta let them come in and then let them go away too. And so that's why, you know, mindfulness is always the start of these journeys, whether it's talking about swag or talking about enlightenment or whatever else you want to call it.
I'm glad you said it that way, because you know, it's so easy. It's difficult to like celebrate ourselves. There is things happening and mentalities of like it's easier to sort of put our accomplishments aside or push our swag aside, because celebrating ourselves is a difficult thing to do, I think, for a lot of people. And like you said, it's a mental health journey, and I'm glad you said it in that way, because I feel like it's difficult to sort of connect with your brain and to sort of realize celebration of yourself isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's something to be celebrated. Yeah. I mean, you should be proud of your accomplishments.
And that there's constant opportunities. I'm not talking about, you know, getting 100,000 subscribers on YouTube or winning a race. I'm talking about making some bomb ass green beans or whatever it is. Like, you know, finding every little excuse you can to celebrate yourself, because there will be no accomplishment that checks that box. Trust me, I've seen it. I've seen athletes win world championships and then despise themselves the next day, you know, when this is their only goal they've ever had. And the reason is because it's not about that anyway. And that's so cliche. Everyone knows that intuitively, but it's so true. Like if you're not able to celebrate the little things, or you don't even view it as a valid goal, then the big things you'll get there and you'll be numb. Yeah. Or even worse, like you'll get there and you'll be relieved. And like, gosh, you should never be relieved when you do some immense thing. Everything should be like, oh my God. So, you know, in practice, this is incredibly difficult, and it's not about, you know, wanting to be Cardi B. It's just literally about saying to yourself, I am enough. And what stems from I am enough is, you know, these are some bomb ass green beans. This run that I'm going out for that was a mile long and I took a walk break. Like, it's pretty freaking awesome that I was able to do that. And being willing to say it out loud too. because the people that will tear you down if you do like celebrate yourself, they're just projecting their own insecurities.
Right.
So, you know, all super difficult, but find people that are willing to celebrate you with you. Because once you find that, that's when, you know, the magic really starts to happen, not just with being a happier person, but like being a kick-ass athlete or whatever it is that, you know, you're pursuing in life. Like as a writer, for example, I am so freaking lucky that I have Megan to read my writing, because if I didn't, I never would have taken the risks I've taken over the last 10 years. Because every time Megan reads it, she's like, damn, David, this is amazing, which gave me courage to then say that. And so she's still making edits. It's not like everything is perfect all the time. It's that, you know, we're finding an excuse to celebrate every little thing. Even that joke that needs to get axed could get me canceled.
Can you just send those jokes to us?
You just forward those jokes right onto us.
Can you write a different book with just that stuff?
Cancel jokes.
Oh my God. That would, I think, sell way more copies. And also, like, we'd have to go into witness protection.
That's the title of the book.
Yeah.
If you wouldn't mind indulging me a little bit, because we're talking about something that I think we could even do right now. I think, you know, you surround yourself with the right people. You're talking about having your core group of people that, you know, celebrate you and celebrate themselves and like help inspire you to celebrate yourselves and stuff like that. I thought this, as you're saying it, I'm going, why don't we just do that right now? Like, why don't we celebrate something small, each of us, the three of us, did today, even if it's small. I'm going to put Kim on the spot first.
Oh.
I'm so sorry, but you're sitting to my right.
Oh.
What is one thing you did today that that we can celebrate together? Doesn't have to be big, doesn't have to be running, anything.
Took care of my sick dog.
Hell yeah.
Which is something we do obviously every day.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like a growing, evolving thing. He's doing great, by the way, you guys.
Yeah, he's doing very good. Thanks.
But it's definitely
to you.
an added thing. What about you?
I didn't wear a hat today. I actually did my hair.
You brushed your hair.
I did, which is, let's be honest, it's so easy to just pop a hat on and just sort of forget about like caring about how you look or caring about yourself. It's just really easy, especially right now. But a part of me was like, nah, I want to not wear a hat today. So I'm not wearing a hat. And I'm actually pretty proud of that. I think that's a pretty damn good thing, even though it's small. And, yeah, it's small, but I'll take it. What about you, David?
Yeah, I mean, for me, Megan and I woke up at 4 a.m. this morning to get out there and crew, even when, part of us is always like, well, this is going to set us behind or anything like that. And like, for me, as someone that's a little bit more introverted maybe in nature, being able to like put myself out there a little bit is always something that I'm like, I always celebrate a huge amount, no matter how small it seems, especially even with like friends. So yeah, I mean, I love the idea that like, think of little things that you can celebrate all the time, because it becomes a habit. And I mean, I think that that's the big thing with once your mental health context is in a place that this is even possible, which is the first step. So like, if this is not possible, therapy, medication, whatever you need, like it's time to make those steps. But once it does become possible, it's just a habit. Like, it's like, that this, what we're calling swag is not something that's like, easy or comes naturally for almost anyone, I bet. It's just something that's like, yeah, I'm pretty damn cool, and be okay with that. And I see it all the time in running. And so it's to apply it specifically to running. If someone is is viewing their athletics or their runs as some sort of evaluation process where this is either good or this is bad, it will always default to bad eventually. And that bad will then snowball, and they will become a way worse athlete. They will become that athlete that they think they are in that 1 out of every 20 workouts that they're not happy with. That sounds crazy, but you see it over and over and over again. As soon as they let themselves embrace that even the bad ones are good ones, that those are worthy of celebration too, then they stop those cycles, and like mind-blowing things are possible. And so a story on that, the woman that we were accruing today, Bailey, 4 months ago, she had all of a sudden, shape of her life, sharp pain in her lower back, out of nowhere on the middle of a run. Ultimate nightmare for a young female athlete, because you kind of know what that is if you've been around this sport long enough. It's a sacral stress fracture. So she got an MRI, bad sacral stress fracture, had to take time totally off weight bearing. We gave her our arm bike from when Megan had surgery last year. And, the whole time she would write in her log, And she must have had to work so hard on this over the last year. She'd be like, I crushed that arm bike today. The most pointless exercise in the world. Like even someone that told her to arm bike, it's like, it has no relevance to what she wants to do long term. But it was that step that let her then two months ago today, or two months ago, she did her first run walk back. And today she just set a record that I don't think will be touched for 3 decades.
Wow.
And the point is, that's only possible if you let yourself be like, I'm really proud of these things I've done along the way. Not just the things of like setting an FKT. Of course she's proud today, but it's when she was on the arm bike that she was proud. Or when she had the courage to go get an MRI, knowing that it might tell her something she didn't want to see. All those little steps. So, the little things are where it's at. The big things are just, they come and go.
I've been, I really, really like this idea. And as we're sort of talking about it in my brain, I'm going, how can I sort of incorporate this? Because it's very easy to default to the negative. I am guilty of this as I'm sitting here listening to you talk, and I'm just thinking through the brain. I'm going, wow, there's so many times every day, not just big things like, oh, I missed my run mileage goal, or I missed a race, or I didn't finish a race. Not just the big things, but the little things. Like, I didn't put on pants today. I only wore like shorts, and you're sort of like, oh, that makes me feel slovenly or whatever. I love the idea of maybe celebrate a day. So part of me thinks like, I want to do something more regular. Like I've seen gratitude lists and things like that where people are sort of sharing that. And I'm like, I would love to maybe think of something a day that we just want to celebrate. So
we've talked about making a celebrate thread on celebrate channel on Discord as well.
server.
And it's great. Jessica in the chat room has prompted the chat room to let everybody know what they're celebrating today. And it's really fun to see what everybody's celebrating. It's a wide array of things.
It could be I'm just kind of learning this from David now. It's just like, you're right. It could be absolutely anything. It could be training. It could be running. Could be running related or some sort of fitness goal. Could be use the arm bike. Crush the arm bike today. But it could also be I made kick-ass green beans.
Being a mom or
being a mom.
It has to be anything. Because if life is compartmentalized into these little boxes, it will be least common denominator when it comes to self-worth. So, this is all shorthand at getting at like self-acceptance, self-worth, like all these other, like postcard style things that it said. And the reason I frame it as swag is because I don't think this is a passive thing that develops over a long period of time. I think this is an active thing that you got to go take, especially if you're the type of person that does cut yourself down. I'm a super self-depreciating person, and, I fight it all the time. And I'll still make jokes like that, but I don't feel that way anymore. And, I owe a lot of that to Megan and the athletes on Swap, but also like in therapy and stuff like that, but also just accepting that it was okay. I remember thinking back in the day, I was like, well, if people on social media think I'm not humble, then what am I doing or whatever? And it's like, it doesn't matter. Like the whole point is to love yourself. It doesn't matter what some random person in, like Idaho thinks about what I think of myself. They should want me to love me too. And they should want to love themselves and love, you know what I mean? So, when it comes to like, I think as a coach, I'm only qualified to talk about running, but I've heard from therapists and things that, when you're starting to go outside that, or relationships, like the same thing starts to happen. If you beat yourself up about the type of partner you are, you're going to be the crappy partner. Like, yes, you need to recognize ways you can improve. That's fine. But like, it all has to come from that place of love. And that background place of love is what I'm calling swag. So, I think it's really hard, especially for a lot of people that are probably in this group that are like really like good humans, that then see things like societal injustice and all this other stuff. And like, well, there's so many bigger things than this. And, the big message here is that by embracing this element of yourself, this little voice that will let you say, I am awesome, then you will have the spirit, as Ethan said, or the energy to actually do that stuff for the world too, for the people around you, and be that person that does lift other people up and let them feel their swag. So, it's all super complicated, but I just can't emphasize enough how much like, my spiritual guide is as much like Cardi B as it is like Ram Dass or a spiritual teacher or something, and I think that there's so much to be learned from people that just embrace themselves without apology, without saying like, hey, I did a thing or whatever. It's like, I did this really good thing that I'm proud those little steps, I think they matter.
Yeah.
And I think it's contagious. And I think that's just having this conversation is proof that, like, mentioning it, talking about it, opening up about celebrating yourself or others, it's contagious. And I fully believe that. And I think anytime we have David on it, whatever the topic of conversation is that we have with you, David, anytime that you're on the show, as I say, or as we both said at the top of the show, is like we leave those episodes feeling good, feeling something, whether it's inspiration, stoke, whatever it might be. We leave those conversations just kind of like, damn, that was great. And it's the contagiousness of the positivity. Whether you're celebrating yourself or celebrating others, there is something contagious in that. I think the more we can do that, who knows? Who knows how many people we can help? And your weekly sort of one thing that David does, and I'll toot his own horn. It's a beautiful horn.
Wait.
Yeah,
wait.
How pretty is my horn?
It's pretty good. But realizing also when I said that, it's very inappropriate. It's a trumpet. Let's just say that. 3 valves. David every week mentions members of his their community, the swap community, and sort of shouts them out of like, here's these incredible accomplishments that happened over the weekend or in the last 7 days. And it's just this constant of positive energy, celebration of other people and celebration of the sport and accomplishment and everything. And it's really, really cool. Well, in and of itself, it helps other people begin to celebrate other people who celebrate other people. And it's a really good thing, David. I'm sorry.
What I'd love to do, if it was my story to tell, is be like, and this person cried themselves to sleep and then woke up the next day and was okay with that. And was like, that was cathartic. And I needed that, and that's the next step is like this can't just be about race wins or whatever. This has to be about just like the act of existence. Because existence is messy and there will be criticism at every single turn if you're looking for it. And the key is just not to be looking for it, because if your best, if your best is not always enough, it'll never be enough. Yeah. And so you just always have to be enough. And so, you're allowed to be frustrated or sad or all these other things. But even those things are worthy of celebration, because that is the act of living is fully experiencing. So, the more we can just act like it's okay. Like it's okay to want to celebrate yourself, to want to celebrate other people. Like that's where it's at. Like, this reserved, reserving affection is the biggest waste of time of anyone's life in the world. I'm not saying that there's like a specific reason we're here on earth, but I can guarantee it's not to make someone earn your love. It's to give love as much as we possibly can. If there's anything I know for sure, it's the one thing that separates us from rocks in the first place. So, essentially all this is giving love. And, I think it's easier for people to conceptualize giving love to others sometimes than it is giving love to themselves. Mm-hmm. And so this is all just saying, love yourself as much as you possibly can. And I think it just opens up a lot of doors along the way. And, obviously way, way harder in practice.
Couldn't agree more. We, again, have an incredible live audience right now watching our episode. A lot of questions that popped up earlier in the episode. A lot of wonderful dialogue in regards to people celebrating their daily accomplishments. Thank you, Jessica, for starting that sort of question in the chat room. But Kim, you pulled a bunch aside there. What do we got? there
was a comment in the chat room that I thought was funny. It was from D. James Button. He says, "Hey, we're not judgmental here in Idaho." Just in regards here.
What do you love potatoes? I could talk shit about potatoes right now. Like, honestly, these sweet potatoes or GTFO. No, I'm just kidding. I love potatoes. And I love Idaho. You're awesome.
Idaho is one of the most beautiful states.
I was waiting for somebody to be to make a joke. There was a smiley face attached to that comment, by the way. Great question from Justin in the chat room. Justin says, "David, do you have any tips on self-belief swag specifically for running rookies? I notice new runners comparing themselves to experienced runners or getting down on early stumbling blocks. So any advice finding swag as a running rookie?"
Yeah, I mean, the hard part here is comparison, right? Because like if you start playing that game, it's obvious in running because there's clocks and things, like I've been running incredibly seriously at very high volumes for a long time, and I would get lapped many times over by, Galen Rupp or something. And that applies to anyone that's looking around. And that person at the very top that's looking around is probably doping. So, even they're not feeling great about themselves, you would assume. So, it's this never-ending feedback cycle. And in the face of that, what I really like athletes to do is be like, the goal is just the process. Like, it's like what we're celebrating, we'll be celebrating like times or places or whatever, but I even don't want them to be super aware of that. I'd much rather be like, okay, if I can do 5 or 10 minutes, that's freaking awesome. Or if I have to rest today, I'm going to try to do 5 or 10 minutes tomorrow, and try to really separate it into very small milestones along the way. Ideally, like daily or weekly or things where it's just like anything it counts. Anything reaches that bar. That it's not that you have a high hurdle to clear. It's that there is no hurdle. And then once you do that and you like give yourself the chance to just put yourself out there over and over and over again, that's when you start to like get a better feel for it as you develop. And so it's super cliche to use writing as a metaphor for anything, but I think so many writers stop so early because how vulnerable it is to put yourself out there in this like, unrefined form all the time that it takes to be a writer. And so it's just like that process where you're starting out, that it's all going to be cringe inducing in 10 years as a writer. And similarly as a runner, you're going to be crushing your old versions of yourself most likely as you go. But that's the fun part, is the learning part of it, is the growing part of it. So each day that you have, like you're celebrating not, oh, I'm faster than I was yesterday. You're saying that I am today. Like this thing that I am today, wherever it is super cool. So that's why like I'm a broken record with like 5 minutes counts. That's awesome. And it can be a walk. And if not today, then tomorrow.
Brilliant. Go for it.
Question from AK Trail Runner. AK Trail Runner says, David, living with depression, we tend to see failure even when we are successful. How can we celebrate success without a support structure there when your mind still says failure?
See, that's the hardest part, is when the mental health game doesn't let you play, even engage in this conversation. And, that's one of the things that prompted a lot of this, and a lot of the way I'm trying to frame mental health discussions now is I've seen so many people going through like some really rough, terrible depression and being so resistant, let's say, to medication, or trying different types of medication, often because they're like, does that mean I'm weak or whatever? So, what I'm like is, no, the brain sometimes just needs a little bit of a help. My mom is on antidepressants and is the best person I've ever met. And it was what was needed for her to be her. But not every type of depression needs that. Some can be helped with like therapy and other things and really get to that point. Or maybe certain types of depression don't still work for everyone. But all I say is that like if someone is in a place where their brain won't let them engage and like even recognize this as a valid talking point, not to give up. To start telling people about it, to put yourself out there at least with that first. And then from there, just like the running conversation, like 5 minutes counts, if it's just like looking up a therapist, not even calling the therapist, just like getting some ideas, or, feeling good brain chemicals for just a second and like embracing that, and letting yourself know that the ups will be there. This will pass, but then there will be downs too, and it's not the end of the world. That the mental health journey is a lot like the running journey or the writing journey or any of these other things. It's one of those long zoomed out things. So, it takes so much courage to even talk about that to the question, AK Toronto. So I really appreciate that. And I would say to those listening that I don't know your situation, but if you're in that boat and you've tried therapy and you've tried these other things, really consider medication. It makes a world of difference for some people, and there is zero like stigma in it or fault in it or anything like that. It's just like, it's so important sometimes.
That's great.
Great question from Sam in the chat room. Pardon me. Sam says, thoughts on how to use Strava as a tool to motivate rather than an unhealthy comparison.
Well, this gets back to, the reverse of celebrating yourself is celebrating everyone else, right? So here isn't like, I got swag, all you suckers are terrible. It's that I got swag, we got swag, let's swag this crap up. So, Strava's cool because it just says kudos.
Swag this crap up is going to be a new
it,
t-shirt. Sorry, David. Sorry. So sorry.
Just gotta swag that shit up. It just gives you an excuse to like engage and actually root for people. And so one thing Megan and I have been talking a lot about it recently is like that little voice in our brain, that everyone's brain, that's kind of like resentful of someone else's success or whatever, resentful of someone else's, the way they present themselves to the world, and be like, oh man, we're turning that stuff around and we're being like, this person is amazing. Let's love that person too, even if they're not connected to us, even if they don't feel that same way about us. Like, and so once you start to really practice that, like actually rooting for people, kind of like if you're a fan of the Seattle Seahawks, that's how you view like the other people in your world. It makes life so much better because all their successes get to be your success, and that just cranks up your swag meter too. So Strava is a great place for that. Like, and then it is healthy to have a few enemies. You can have some enemies, but like generally try to just root as hard as you can for other people. It's almost nothing in life is a zero-sum game. In fact, it's usually the opposite, that the more success there is, the more there is to go around. And so, let's try to add as much as we can to that pot.
Love it. And swag that shit up, or swag that crap up, or swag that. They're all going to be t-shirts.
That's David's new cologne he's going to release.
I can't wait to spray swag that shit up all over me. And it's going to be the hit at
going
club.
Going straight on my horn. Is that what we were talking about earlier?
That is it. That's
okay.
I think you called it a beautiful horn.
Yeah, changing the title of today's episode to David's horn, 3 valves, swag that shit up.
Oh boy, definitely just got flagged somehow. I'm sure.
Yeah, you two definitely heard horn, swag, and up, and we're screwed. We're totally screwed. Maybe one more question, then we'll move into the after show.
Yeah, I think you're eyeing the one from Tyler. Is that the one that you?
Yeah, I was curious
your
about
eye
this
on?
one. Yeah.
Tyler says, new to running myself and just recently learned of MAF. Curious on your opinion on MAF for building a base. Is it better to just go by zone or skip all that in general and focus on building miles?
Amazing question. I think that MAF, so for those that don't know, MAF is the general terminology used for heart rate cap training. Where that cap is, there's different ways to do it. 180 minus age is kind of the traditional way, though perhaps it's a little more complicated in practice. And, my idea is, look, it helps to understand what easy running actually entails. But on a broader scale, throw that stuff out. It's not helping you. It's going to just hold you back, especially at first. Because the problem at first is that'll have you walking every single uphill. It'll have you going so slow. And your body has to learn how to run fast in the first place. If you can't actually run fast, you're never just going to slow run your way to getting fast. The MAF, where almost all the success stories are in people that don't have a major problem running fast to begin with, at least for short distances, then they just have a very underdeveloped aerobic system. They throw in the MAF training, and suddenly that speed that they've already had expresses itself more in an endurance context. But when people that haven't already developed that do MAF training, they just get slower and slower and slower. And I get emails like this all the time. This isn't me like conjecture. I just say I get dozens of emails a year from people like, I did MAF training and just got, I want to quit running. So it has a time and a place. It's good to know what easy generally feels like and do most of your running around that. But to MAF, make sure you are adding strides. You can look where I've written about that, other places, short intervals, things that teach you what it actually feels like to run fast, because that we're not just lungs with legs, right? We're not just an aerobic system. We're also a musculoskeletal system, a biomechanical system, and a neuromuscular system, all feeding back together. If we ignore biomechanical, neuromuscular, and musculoskeletal at the expense of aerobic, all that stuff is just going to waste away. So there are some people that are exceptions to that rule and will be fine on those 3 things. But if you're not one of them, like MAF could lead to like really negative places long term. So I just say, make sure you're learning how to run fast while you're learning to run easy too. And I just stopped myself suddenly because I was like, could have been another shirt too.
It's short and succinct and important. The reason I wanted to talk about that conversation is because I knew David would have something to say about it. So I appreciate that question first and foremost, because I think it's a really prevalent question. I feel like we've gotten that anytime we've had any sort of coach on the show or anyone that is knowledgeable in various training forms and stuff. That's been very, very common. And especially with beginners or new runners who it's so easy to just type in like, how do I run faster or something into Google, and you get a lot of these results of this is it, this is the way, and here's a whole training cycle that you can use that will make you faster, or here's this that will make you faster. And I don't know, it's just good to hear from a coach.
On this topic, if someone is interested more in the science and history of this, just write base building David Roche into Google. An article I'm really freaking proud of to be on our theme of swag that I wrote earlier this year on this topic, why MAF, where its shortcomings are, how it integrates into the rest of training theory history, and then physiology too. And so that really explains the anecdotes where it works and why those anecdotes where it works are actually exceptions that prove the rule in the most like literal definition of that term. And then how it fits together with more complex training theory. And like how, especially for people that are just starting out or looking to take it to the next level, how you can use the good parts of that, which is like 75% of it is really smart thinking, but then integrate it with like a maybe more well-rounded kind of fun approach that then will, take it up to the very next level. So yeah, that's a shameless self-promotion right there.
Love it. No shame in that whatsoever.
Toot your own horn.
Toot your own horn.
I've heard a lot about it.
Yeah, my horn is on display greatly today.
Another t-shirt, another horn. It's another t-shirt right there. We're going to wrap up the main show here with David and move into the after show because we know that he's on a time commitment, but we also want to make sure that we ask as many questions as we can. So our after show will ask some residual questions that didn't get asked here during the main show. And you can join us in our after show quite easily by just going to patreon.com/thegingerrunner, as we already mentioned. But David, I want to give you an opportunity to, again, sort of toot your own horn, but talk a bit about where people can follow up with you, the website, the podcast, the book. I mean, there's so many resources that people can get their hands on, specifically with your words and your encouragement and things like that. So where can people find those words, David?
Well, I'm all over. Look at the Some Work All Play podcast that Megan and I do each week if you're interested in any more. But, the main thing I want to end with here is just the idea that like, you probably hear me say or hear others say like you are loved or words like that a lot. And I would say if that's uncomfortable for you, really like start to sit down and let's talk about love. That's the way I want to end it is like, I think love a lot of times is reserved for like, oh, my one true love, this partner I'm going to spend the rest of my life with. But that's not what love is. Love is just openness. Love is connectedness. Love is warmth. And openness, connectedness, and warmth, like that's something we can give ourselves first and give ourselves most of all. So, when you're thinking of yourself and your future and the things you don't like about yourself, if it's your love handles or the type of thoughts you have or your running background or your work or any of this stuff, just try little by little to give yourself that warmth, that openness, that connectedness that really lets you like embrace all of the amazing things about you. Because I guarantee every single person watching, like if we could sit down, like I could come up with like 100 things about you that are so beautiful and perfect. And sometimes our brains don't let us see those. So the big message here is that what love is just trying to let that little bit of light in and let you see that in yourself. So apply it first to running because that's all I actually know and everything else is bullshit. But like, apply it first to your running and how you view it. But then if you can, start to apply it to other things too. Yeah, those are some bomb-ass green beans. Yeah, you deserve to be celebrated for taking care of your ailing dog. And yeah, you deserve to be celebrated for crying yourself to sleep the night before. And once you integrate all that, like, that openness, you can spread a lot more love to the world too.
Thank you, David.
I love you guys.
Love you too, my friend. We really, really appreciate having David on the show. I don't feel like there's been an episode that we haven't left that episode thinking deeper, more profoundly, and in a better headspace than we do when we sit down. It's just so great to have David as a coach, as a friend, and as a guest on the show. And we are so thankful for everything that he does for this community, for us, for everybody. We hope you enjoyed tonight's episode. If you did, again, go check out David's social media if you want to follow him there. Coaching services, the book, the podcast, the SWAP podcast. There's so many different resources that you can get that have David's words, Megan's words. They're inspiration and encouragement. We cannot recommend any of them enough, because clearly tonight's episode and every episode that we have David or Megan on is just testament to their ability to inspire, encourage, and push you forward as people and as runners. Before we end tonight's show, again, we are going to move into an after show with David. We're going to just keep him for a little bit of time here, but the after show we'll be able to ask some of these questions from the live stream, and any residual questions, we'll just rapid fire through them. But before we get to our after show, we do have a segment on the show that we like to celebrate members of the community. It is a segment we call our GR Crew Member of the Week, where we get to celebrate you, Kim. Who is this week's GR Crew Member of the Week?
There's so much good stuff happening this last week. So we want to celebrate all of you. The GR Crew Member of this week that I've chosen is Deb Hamberlin, who is a wonderful member of our community, has helped crew and pace several members of our community as well. And Deb set out on Friday to do the rim to rim to rim with a buddy. She took some beautiful pictures. It looked like they had an amazing time. Congrats, Deb.
Congrats, Deb. She's a member of the crew, and it's incredible to see what she gets up to. And yeah, the rim to rim just this last weekend is, I mean, it's a big bite to chew off for anybody.
And she does a lot to help support others in the community as well.
Absolutely. She crews and paces people and everything like that. So Deb, congratulations to you. Today we get to celebrate you as our GR Crew Member of the Week. We appreciate everything that you do for our crew and your own. So thank you so much, Deb. That's it for tonight's episode with David Roche, our Ask Coach Roche episode, which is also an episode we're going to kind of call Celebrating Yourself, which we hope that you continue to do. I know I'm going to try this. I'm going to try to do a celebrate a day. So celebrate something every day. Maybe I'll post it to Instagram or something like that. But I feel like the only way for me to do something is to actually do it.
We need to get a big whiteboard or something.
I don't know where.
We don't have a single spot on a wall here.
I'll write it on the outside of our house. I'll just find like a white pen ink and just be like, every day I'll write something nice. We're going to move right into our after show. Jump on over there if you have not already, but we appreciate you all so much. Thank you for tuning into tonight's Ginger Runner Live. We'll see you next week for episode 328. Should be fun. Get out there, train as hard as you can, virtually race harder, and party the hardest. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Ginger Runner.